Hi, this is the Social Jello with Angelo show. My name's Angelo. I'm a social scientist, surfer, martial artist, and a whole lot of other things. Coming to you live from Kasai City, Japan, the Social Jello with Angelo show.
What's up, and welcome to Social Jello with Angelo. I'm here with Ron Esteller, and we're here to talk about, if you saw the title of the podcast, how to run a successful martial arts program. Geez, I really hope I remember that I said that, but it's going to be something like that for the title. And a little bit about Ron. Well, Ron has been, oh man, I don't have enough history off the top of my head. So the questions are going to start. Ron, so how long have you been running programs in the Bay Area now?
Um, well, I have official and kind of unofficial.
Let's do both.
I had my first set of students in 1971 as a junior in high school. I was a blue belt, and with the okay of my then instructor and with a faculty member sponsor, I taught an after-school program my junior and senior year in high school. We got off at 2:30 every Thursday. It was called Concilium Period, and there was after-school programs that kids could either go home or stay for the programs. So that was my first bite at teaching. I was already helping around, but that was my first time that I had my own group. But I really started teaching at the San Leandro Boys and Girls Club in 1984 till 1999. And then I opened my first actual school in 1999.
So how many years roughly?
37, 38, somewhere into there. As
right.
far as from 84 to 9. Well, that's 40. 39. I just did the math.
I'll round it off. I'll say 40.
Yeah.
I'll say about 40 years. So if we could easily say for over 39 years, we'll just say 40 because I like it's a round number for people to remember. For 40 years, Ron's been running martial arts programs. So how many brick and mortar gyms and dojos have you ran?
The first one in 99, I had that one, a very small location. I had that for about a year and then moved into my current location where I'm at now, and I've been there 22 years. And then I opened a second location in 2010, and I'm still in that town, but I'm in a different location that I've been in the last 3 years. And that'll be my last location before I retire, whenever the heck that is. Yeah.
All right. And how many black belts do you have under you?
Somewhere between 40 and 45. Not that many, because it's not easy. I don't give it away, and I am a commercial school, but I'm not commercial. I run it the same way I ran it at the boys club, and it takes I want to say a good 8 to 10 years, as much as 14. I've had 3 people take 14 years to get their black. Most of them are between 8 and 10.
All right.
Which makes it really hard when they start at 2 and 3, because I started taking 2 and 3-year-olds. I have a young lady. She started with me at 4. She's just turning 18. I just gave her her first degree December 3rd.
And then, without getting too sidetracked here, all right. So, anybody watching, I do this a lot. I'm sure. I hope. Hopefully, Ron's not sick of me doing this. For anybody watching who's not a Kajikemo person, and this is your first episode, you're trying to kind of figure things out. For the most part, in Kajikembo, as I've mentioned before in other episodes, we are given a lot of freedom. But one thing that was told to me, there is this thing called the Kajikembo family tree, which is ran by Philip Jelinas. If I said that right, if I pronounced that right. And one of Philip's things is, first of all, you can only black belts are allowed on that tree, first of all. Second of all, if you're a Kajikembo practitioner, you want to be on the tree, you just contact them and just show them some documentation for your certification, and you're on the tree. But there is a little there's a caveat, I don't know how to say it, but it's along those lines. And it's that he does not like putting children on the tree. You have to be an adult to be on that tree. You have to be an adult. That means 18 and up to be on the tree. So without going on a sidetrack as to how that works and how complicated it is to be training little kids and keep them around. Yeah, right. You got a little kid starts at 3, and now they've been doing Kajikembo for what, just about 15 years. And well, you can't. You
18,
can give them
18 for me.
yeah, you can give them
18.
18. You can give them a junior black belt. You technically can't give them a official adult black belt until they've yeah,
If
that
they started at 3 or 4, usually by the time they're at, I'm going to say 13, they can test for the black belt with the white stripe. They keep that till they're 16. 16, I'll give them a regular black belt, but it's only a student black belt until they're 18. One of the reasons for that is the Gaylord method. One of our traditional welcomes into the brotherhood is the punch in. We don't whip with a belt. There's a line of black belts at a party, and every single one of them is the one that wants to drop you. So I'm not doing that to a 16, 17-year-old. 18, that's a whole nother story. Now, that being said, I personally have stopped doing that. The more I got older, the more smarter I got, the more I have a degree in health science. So, once I figured out you could rupture an aorta doing that, I pretty much stopped doing that. So, yeah.
but still the same the heart of Kajikembo, or the concept of there is going to be a very physically demanding test for an adult black belt, and that's changed over time. You should check out, my young Rob Roland recently did a I think it was like another what is Kajikembo thing, but I think he kind of laid out the history in a really interesting fashion about how when it started it was really hard, a lot of beating the crap out of each other. That kind of never really left. A lot of people got hurt, a lot of people got injured, and as time progressed, we still kept holding on to a very physically demanding test. It's going to be a lot of stuff tested, and I'm going to emphasize very physically demanding. And each school does that a little differently, but it's still going to be physically demanding. So there is this thing, and I know I'm sidetracking about how to run a successful dojo here. I'm going to get right back to that, but there is this element that, like Ron said, that we don't want to put a child through that. I haven't talked to everyone in Kajikembo, but all the people I've met have said the same thing. We don't want to put a child through that test. We as parents, well, a lot of them are parents too. We wouldn't want to put our kid through it. Why am I going to put a kid that's not my kid through something that I wouldn't even put my kid through? So there is that. Okay.
Well, very sad that I have a lot of black belts that are not on the tree because they never made it to first degree, and that kills me because I put a lot of work into these kids. I would have put 8 to 10 years into these kids, and they don't. Either they leave for college and don't come back. I mean, I count that time. If they go to college, if they train somewhere, every college has a program. Just do something. I count that as training. Now, that being said, the one thing I'm going to say to anybody that's thinking about opening up a school, and this is what this is about, I'm going to give you the best advice right now. Keep your day job. Because it is not easy. It is not easy. It's not easy with the 2 and 3-year-olds. Kajikembo wasn't designed for them, but yet maybe it was. People used to tell me, "How can you take them that young?" Well, because I like little kids. They're so open. Who needs it more? Who gets better balance out of what we do? Who gets tougher from falling down in the schoolyard doing what we do? Who listens to their parents after their parents, threaten them? I'm going to tell Sifu, right? It is for kids just as much. Now you have to. I've had to adapt it, but every single one of my black belts is just as tough as anybody that I did in the past. Just had to take it in sections and change it up a little bit. As far as the business part is, here's my business model, and it's worked for me for 40 years. I keep my gym under 1,500 square feet because that got me through the low times. I made good money in the good times, but 2008 and 9, boy, it was tough. This last COVID, it was tough. If I didn't have a low rent, I would never have made it. I know a lot of friends that went, oh, they started doing good. They got out there, they got the 10,000 foot square facility, and they're doing great. And as soon as something happens, they're closing their doors. So that's my best advice there. Don't, and also get a some sort of a software for your business, whether it's Spark, Studio Boss, whatever it is. Let them handle it. Yeah, you can have to pay out some money. It probably costs me 800 or 900 bucks a month between the things that I pay and getting credit card, processed and all that. But it's all a write off, and you need a write off. And that being said, you can write off everything, every vacation I go to, everything that I do is is martial art related. The truck that I drive is I drive it back and forth from San Leandro here, so it's a deduction, and that's the good thing about it. The bad thing about it is collecting the money every month, and again, that's why you want to use one of those services where you don't have to be the bad guy. Oh, it's my collection company, it's not me, right? And they'll collect for you, and it made a huge difference in my business once I started using that type of service.
And as you said earlier, that just to add to that notion of don't quit your day job, I've met a lot, and I'm gonna, I've interviewed a lot of people and talked about their successful programs, Hackleman included, and I've looked at their history, and there's always a point where you're running the studio, running your program, and you're doing something else. Like maybe it's
Yeah,
martial arts related. A lot of the Kajikembo guys are all and girls are also coaches, like wrestling coaches or PE coaches. But there's
mhm,
like several avenues for revenue that they're
right.
kind of hitting, and sometimes they're martial arts related, sometimes they're not. Like in my case, I'm an English teacher,
Well,
but
I kept my day job until about a year after I opened the studio in 1999. I worked for the phone company. I used to climb poles, and I took one too many ride down the poles and had splinters in everywhere. My wife said, "You know what? Just go open your program and just do it." And I'll always thank my wife and love my wife and give her the credit for what I do. Every student I've taught, every life I've changed has been because of her sacrifice of going to work every day and bringing home the real money in the house and the insurance and all that. I could never have done it without her. So guys, make sure you pick the right woman too. That's key number two.
so yeah, definitely. Having someone who supports, having a not just one person, but having a whole community of people that support what you're doing, I think is really important.
Yeah.
I see that a lot with young people coming up in the ranks, and they get to that point where they get their black belt, and they're saying they're going to continue their training. And I'm always just kind of watching people when they're about. There's like three areas of life where I'm always watching my students when they meet when they have to go to college. That's one point. Like you were talking about that earlier. There's that one point when they have to go to college. I have an eye on the student. Like, oh, are they going to go? Are they going to come back? Are they going to keep training? I don't know. Step number two. Let's say they get past that hump. They're still training wherever they are. They come back. Like in your case, they got their black belt. They got their instructor certificate. Now they can teach Kaja Kembo. They're teaching or whatever. Step two. They meet a girl or a guy, or whatever their sexual preference is. They meet that person. I'm like, all right, I'm kind of keeping an eye on you now. Got my eye on them again. See what's going on. Are they gonna? It's not. They don't have the kind of freedom they used to have. They were single. So let's see how that works. They
Well,
get.
that's the whole thing is they're always fighting for your time. My wife has a lot of times it's called Kajikembo my first wife. And I'm afraid that she's not right, but she's not wrong either. I have put Kajikembo first a lot in my life. I'm about to change that. When I retire, I'll dedicate the rest of my life to just her, and that may not be that far off.
So that's the second point, right? And then there's the third point when they have kids. because
Mhm.
that's another, and again, Kaji Kempo is a family martial art. So in my opinion, there's no reason from in my life, in my opinion, it shouldn't have to be an and or if and black and white answer. Like, okay, I have kids, so I'm done. And I think that's kind of different. That's what makes we're going to the what is Kaji Kempo again. I hate to do this, but here we go. I think that's what makes Kaji Kempo kind of different from things like boxing or kickboxing, right? Because it's kind of a sport track, career track. You kind of do it, you get it, you get to make the money, and then boom, bam, bam, done, and then go back and live your life. You can kind of go, you can dip in and out.
Mhm.
But traditional martial arts, I can make this a little broader, not just Kaji Kempo. This can be said about karate, Shotokan, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, any of those traditional arts with the belts. It's not the kind of thing it's not like a hobby or a sport where you dip in and out of it. Dipping out is kind of a problem. It's really hard. Once you dip out, it's really hard to dip back in.
It is. It is. I was blessed that both my children, because my wife worked, were with me at the boys' club every day. Picked them up from school. They had no choice. They were with me every single day.
So going back, so I think well, we hit a lot of points there. We hit a lot of points there. Is there anything we're missing here, Ron? How to run a successful martial arts program?
Um, Dealing with the parents um, can be a blessing and a curse. We'll talk off camera about something after. But yeah, I'm dealing with a Karen right now that just is beyond. But it's okay. It is. You have to have a lot of patience. Make sure that this is a double-edged sword. Do you have cameras and record or not? You know, my thought is I don't, but a lot of times I wish I did, just to have that, just in case. You know, um, my son had cameras up when he was running the school in San Leandro. I haven't been using them. They're up. I just don't use them. Um, so that's another big thing is what goes on in your doors, whether your staff is doing stuff. You know, I got my key taken away a couple times from the old dojo when I had the key. Not going to go into it. Let's just say I got my key taken away. uh, and we all been there. We've all, because the dojo was such a sanctuary to us. But yeah,
No,
um,
I know that I know, and this kind of goes with liability. I think you're touching on right now. You're actually touching on the idea of liability. It is a martial art, um, kind of inherent, and like I said, this go back to what I was saying earlier about not sport. Sport, you have a. It's a little easier when I mean, boxing, kickboxing, inherently, there's going to be striking involved. But I think when you talk about liability, you're talking about parents. Again, we're trying to make sure that nobody gets hurt. That's always our goal as instructors. But there is, as I mentioned earlier, a giant physical component to what we do, and it's physically demanding. So if you're coming from a sport like, let's say, basketball, where the rules say that if a person just does this, you can, oh, they elbowed me, and oh, foul, and I got hurt. And then everybody comes in and they get points deducted from whatever we do. That's a non-striking art or a sport. And when you have parents that are coming in from the general public, they may or may not completely understand what's involved in what you do, which is why liability waivers are really important. Um,
yes, yes.
if you're training someone, I heard someone say this, and I don't know how true it is because no, that's not. I don't know personally. If I look at my personal anecdote and all the black belts I know, I don't know. How many times were you injured before you hit black belt, Ron?
Um, Broken ribs, broken fingers, black eyes, bloody nose, bloody lips. Um, I had a teacher in high school that was thinking about calling CPS. Um, because I'd come in with bruises. And I had a student, one of my students, a female student, was asked by a teacher if she was getting abused at home. You know, so yeah, it's Coach Kemble, man. What can I say? And
Yeah, I mean, for me, it doesn't even have to do with this. It could just be in the training. Like I remember just my instructor was teaching me how to do a front kick, spin kick, jumping hook kick. That's it. There was no contact involved at all with me or anyone else. It was me by myself trying to figure this out. And he told me that looks pretty good. Try to lift your leg more so you can get more height. And I did, and I snapped my ankle. I heard a pop and hit the ground. And I was a blue belt at the time. I was an adult, but I mean, just for anybody listening, like they think, oh, they're gonna beat the crap out of my kid. Not even if it's like it doesn't necessarily have to be exactly even in a contact scenario. It could just be
Yeah.
a freak accident because we're doing stuff that involves jumping and dynamic movement. And they say one of the sports, and this is really interesting, in the top 3 sports of the top injuries, cheerleading.
Yeah.
Everyone was
Yes.
like, "What? You mean
Yes.
the
Yeah.
yes
Oh,
cheerleading?"
yes.
Because you're
Yes.
jumping, you're flipping, and on top of that, you're hoping that the other person, your partner, is going to catch you. And in martial arts, there's a lot of that aspect, the uke, right? You're working with someone and you're trying to do one thing. They're trying to help you in this performance. You're kind of doing a performance in a way. There's not really a lot. There shouldn't be too much danger involved, but there is that danger, and you are jumping and moving and twisting and
Well, my daughter cheered junior high and high school. She was the flyer, the one that they throw up in the air. And they would drop her on purpose because, boy stuff, right? That she had nothing to do with. But just because they liked her, they would drop her on purpose. Now, luckily, again, my daughter is one of my black belts. So she knew how to fall, she knew how to roll, and she'd just roll right out of it and just do that. She didn't go fight him or anything. She just ignored him until she finally said, "You know what? I'm enough. I don't want to do this anymore." Yeah, that was fine. But yeah, cheerleading definitely. I've seen injuries within her class as well. Now I have that conversation with parents all the time. This is a contact sport. They're going to be there. Once in a while, I'll throw this one out there. Um, yeah, I have Kajikembo insurance. Ask me what's Kajikembo insurance.
what's Kajikembo insurance?
I have Kajikembo.
That's not we're supposed to.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
What's Kajikembo insurance?
yeah. Dead men don't sue. No, really. It's the no, really. The change of the smile of the face. No, really. Like I pick and choose who I do that with, but we'll have a laugh about it. But it kind of puts in their mind it is a possibility. It's what we do. We're not your gentle, kinder martial art. We will get your child prepared to handle any bully, hopefully handle any kidnapping attempts, and my Safe Kids program has stopped 6 kidnap attempts in the 22 years that I've been teaching it. So it works. You know, um, if you hit hard and you can take a hit hard, you're going to survive. If you get hit and crumble up into a little ball, you're probably not. Fight for your life. Number one, fight for your life. And that's what Kaji Kembo teaches, no matter what method it is. Going back to the methods.
So yeah, again, it is a contact sport. So if you're running a martial arts program, liability, as you just mentioned, maybe even cameras just in case, because you don't, because like you said, it happens all the time. I have free mat time, so I'll let students do whatever it is they want to do. Everybody signed their waivers.
That's when it happens, though, man.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens.
That's when it
Exactly, and
happens.
that's what happens. So maybe you in particularly already have control. And you know, blah blah blah. You've already established. You've been preaching for a long time. You finally worked the kinks out of your system so that no one gets hurt while you're around. But you have free mat, and you need free mat. You can't necessarily be like, okay, no, I'm just gonna get rid of free mat. Well, the problem is you need free mat. Like that's. And for those of you that don't know what free mat time is, free mat is when the class is over and students are given 30 minutes to an hour to work on material that they personally want to work on. So it is a very important time for students. And you as an instructor, you're going to supervise this to the greatest of your ability. But again, you're not in control of two other people. The greatest of your ability, but you're not in control of two other people. And especially as your program gets bigger, you have other people under you, super like. And again, it's a contact sport, so it's like not a
And
sport.
it's hard
It's a
enough when you're there as
yeah.
opposed to when you're, why do you think I got my key taken away? So,
So yeah, again, liability. I think the biggest thing we're talking about here is liability. A good liability waiver will protect you from a lot of that kind of stuff. All right, so we talked about the finances, we talked about the liability, we talked about don't quit your day job. Um, Anything else? Am I missing
yeah,
something?
one more thing. It's the greatest life ever to have that much influence on someone's life. We're helping parents raise their children and raise them right. Maybe that wasn't the original Kaji Kimbo, but it is what we are. It's what the martial arts as a whole is now. We just have the added bonus of actually teaching these children how to protect themselves truthfully, and that's it's the greatest job ever. And if you can do it, do it. It's a tough economy right now. We'll see what happens, but it's the greatest feeling to be able to, hey, that person, I know that person, our students that grow up to be doctors, lawyers, police officers, elite military, firefighters, you know, um, sheriffs, and I've got some of each one, and I just described all good people because they don't want to disappoint Sifu, whether it's me, whoever else is out there. That's the influence we have on these kids. And unfortunately, there's some bad influences out there too, and that we just have to fight to keep it right, to keep it right.
I'll even add to that, not just kids. I've met adults. I've met plenty. In fact, my program started with mostly adults. I've met a lot of specifically lost young men who grew up with very little guidance and came to me very later as adults. They weren't children anymore, but they came in thinking they wanted to do MMA or maybe Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and they walked out with a new set of values and a new way of looking at life that they never anticipated
Mhm.
coming in. And whether or not the people I have in mind in my program didn't even make it to black belt, but to this day contact me and say stuff like, "Hey, I'm really sorry. I have this personal event that happened in my life, and what do you think about this? And what do you think I should do?" And it's really, or a family member just died, and they found out this is cool, and they reach out to me to this day.
Yep.
Um, so like I take that responsibility seriously, and that is something that is as heavy as it can be is equally rewarding.
And that's why I truly think if you're going to use a title, Sifu is the most important one because that still keeps you in the trenches. It means you're still teacher and being a teacher, right? There's a reason for mind, body, and spirit, right? This is what we develop for ourselves and hopefully for our students, and those are the things that they'll remember always. Yeah.
Yeah. Final thoughts?
Got you, Kimball, forever.
All right, there it is. God's coming forever. Well, as usual, I fucked up, and I'm going to tell you at the end of a 30-minute video to subscribe to my channel, hit like, and hopefully you stuck around this long to do this.
Well,
And
you can edit that in, right?
nah, I don't have time. Like at this point, either you like it or you like it, you don't, you don't.
Like and share.
Like and share. Like if you're watching YouTube, you haven't figured out that helps, then maybe then I'll let you know now. Do that. Ron, thank you so much for coming out, taking time out of your weekend to share your knowledge and share your experiences with me and the rest of the people that watch the show.
Absolutely, you're Ohana, brother. You sweat with us, and that means a lot to me, and I value you and your time and what you're doing as well. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what Ohana's all about. Thanks so much for having me. Thank you so much for having me for the YouTube listeners and stuff, and thank you so much to Ron for having me come over and let me sweat with him and his students when I went to visit. All right, y'all. You have a great weekend. Social Jello with Angelo, at least 2 episodes a month, and you never know, some surprises here and there. Catch you later.
Peace.